I'm going to explain how to make a hanging bauble. This uses a 10cm Christmas red bauble and 3 pieces of 1.5 meter length gold string. But other size baubles can be used, other colours, baubles and string as well. The first thing you're going to do is get hold of your 3 pieces of string and fold them in half. At the folded end, about 9 centimeters along, going to tie an overhand knot. Keep making sure that you get all 3 pieces through. It's not precise, but about that gives you quite a bit of hanging space. Once you've tied your overhang knot, you've then got 6 cords. And for the next bit, I always find it easiest to stick it down to something. So I've used a bit of sellotape and stuck it just above the overhand knot that we've tied. And what we're next going to do is we're going to do a macrame knot, or it's otherwise known as a half square knot. So what we do is we move 2 cords to the outside and have 4 cords in the middle. The first cord we take over and leave and create a loop. And the other side we bring over the top. It's quite difficult with the size length of cords we're doing. Bring underneath the 4 and then poke it through the hole. And then we pull it up, and that's the first one done. And we're going to do 10 of them. We can keep going from the same side and bringing the left hand one over, the right one under and under, or you could do it alternately the other way, and your second one make the right hand one into the loop. Whichever way you go, keep going, and you want to do 10 of these. If you've done the 10 knots all from looping it all on one side, it will create like a little spiral. But if you've done it alternately, one from left and then one from right, you'll get a flat chain like this one. The choice is yours on which way you do it. Now, once you've done those ones, the next thing to do is unstick it for the moment and then do an overhand knot at the end to hold those bits together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to slide that overhand knot to the bottom. So you then have your loop, your 10, which has been created with the overhand knot. You then have the half square knots, of which you've got 10, and then you've got another overhand knot. The next stage, you're going to split up the cords into pairs, and then about 4 centimeters along. Doesn't have to be precise. You can use a ruler to gauge if you want. You're going to do another overhand knot. So by the time you're finished, you'll get used to doing overhand knots if you aren't already used to them. What you do need to do is when you do all of them around, all 3 of these knots, they need to be almost the same length down, so they're nice and even. So when you pull them together and you tighten up, you try and get them about the same. I'm not quite equal, but it's close. You could spend a little bit more time and get them more equal than what I'm doing. as you're tightening up, you can adjust the length of the knots. So now you will have 3 strands, 3 double strands. The next stage is we're going to turn it into almost like a net. So you'll get the strands from 2 of them, so almost joining them together, and then about another 4 centimeters down you do another overhand knot, so you've then got a joined section like that, and then pulling them again from the sides. And like before, we want to try and keep these knots all in the same sort of location. So another overhand knot, and trying to match as best as you can the same location. If they're not quite the same exact, nothing to worry about. So that's 2 of them done. So now there should be just 2 loose strands left, which we join together again with another overhand knot. So now it should look sort of like this. A little bit of a mess, or hopefully not, but when you put it on your bauble, you should be able to see what is beginning to happen. The baubles you've got have got a nice centre line, join line running all the way around, which will help you position your net on top, because what you want is you want the normal hanging bit pointing down and the new hanging bit central over the top. So you follow the line around, find the top and put it on. And to do that, we're going to use some bits of sellotape to help hold it in place while we do some more of the knots. As you put it on, I've used 3 bits of sellotape which go just above the knots as I centralise it. As you can see, this one's not quite straight, and the sellotape can be peeled off to just straighten it down. And then restuck. Sometimes when you're doing this, extra hands would be lovely. So then I've got all 3 bits of sellotape on. If it goes over the knot, it doesn't matter, but you want it close to the top or just that side of the knot. So that's the first stages done. And then what we're going to be doing is taking the 2 strands like this and pulling them close to where the bottom are, and as we've done before, we're doing some more overhand knots. And this one, what we want to do is get somewhere close to that knot. So first one done, move around, get the next 2, do another overhand knot. This is really tricky doing this while filming. And then, as before, we have 2 loose ones, which will do the final overhand knot. Tie it together. So now you'll have 3 overhand knots which can be pulled to the bottom. And as you've guessed, to pull them all together, we grab all 6 of the cords this time and do another overhand knot. My set of overhand knots which we did previously to join the sets together were quite close to the bottom in this version, so that they've all mixed up into the bottom, as you can see. On the version I did previously, they were slightly shorter, as you can see, and joined together. It doesn't matter, okay? That becomes all unique. Once you've got it to this stage and you've joined them together, you've got a couple of options that you can do. You can, if you wanted, do it all over again and put another bauble, smaller bauble in the bottom, or you can do some more of the half square knots to finish off. But because of the cord that I've got here, this metallic cord is quite friable, you will have to do another overhand knot when you finish. It's a lot of overhand knots, and hopefully by the time you've done this, you'll know an overhand knot. So you can keep going down if you want. And then to finish off, all this cord is friable. So work out the length that you want hanging at the bottom. So sort of hold it and have a guess at what you'd like as tassels at the bottom. I'm going to go for this sort of length, which if I measure it, it's about 8 centimeters down from the top, this knot here. So this time you do an overhand knot on each individual one. And when you've done it, you've got a little knot which stops it fraying, and then snip off. As you can see, we've now got a hanging bauble. What I've done is also I've removed the sellotape holding the string in place, and for me I could imagine doing this with blue and silver cord, but you may have a love of green or yellow, and the cord and the baubles are up to you. You could also make a net that's tighter than this. At the moment I've only done it so it's very, very basic, but you could sit there and do longer cords and make the nets a lot tighter and have a better mesh as you go down on it. Thank you for watching.